I get my Peter. It's really nice.
That's awesome.
Peter! Very cool, very cool. How's the contemplation going, guys?
It's going well. Yeah.
I love Peter. He's just like laughing, smiling, smirking. That's the goal. Yeah.
Uh, Grand Rising.
Grand, right?
Grand Rising.
Um, so how are you guys doing? How is the contemplation coming?
In waves.
Yeah.
Waves.
Yeah, me as well. For
It's
sure.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything
Yeah,
kind of stand out in the last couple weeks for you guys as like sort of maybe a big download or like a big reflection uh, after reading some of this stuff?
Uh, yeah. Yeah, man. Like I was saying, the words to explain how I've been feeling and good, bad, everything over the last few years, like it's almost like gave me more of a internal voice of being able to talk about it to myself
Mm-hmm.
better, you know.
Yeah.
Um uh just the physical and the mental, like understanding like what parts of my body were stressed out, that I knew they were stressed out, but you just think, oh, I'll be fine, you know. Um
So wait, were you relating some of the keys to certain body parts, or like how are you just talking about
yeah. um I can once I get my notes out, I can kind of talk about it a little more,
yeah,
but
because each one of the keys does have like a physiology attached to it, so I wasn't sure if that's
it,
kind of what you meant.
yeah, I think I was reading one of my 50. I was in the 50, and it mentioned the 37th,
Okay,
and the
yeah.
shadow, like the shadows create like a cycle uh
Yes. Doing
together
the
of
programming partners.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I started going because I didn't know about that, and I started going, bouncing around a little bit, and yeah, just physically, I was really worn out, and I knew that, from like 18 all the way through till 20, uh, and just yeah, how the cycle continued, and then the partnerings gave me that, um, the knowledge of what was actually going on, but in the energetic level,
Mm,
like really just I really just kind of hanging on a string, um, and didn't really think too much of it, in a sense. Like, yeah, I'll be fine, this and that,
yeah.
and stress and going through life, and the mindset too, like the way I was thinking, because I was trying to, like toughen the fuck up,
When you say
like
18 to 20, does that mean when you were 18 years old?
sorry, 2018
Oh,
to
okay,
I
2018.
was yeah, it was longer than that, but that's when it really started to kind of like, you know, feel overwhelming, and
Mm,
just, life, you know,
yeah.
energy. Yeah. I had a cycle of going to bed late, waking up early. I was caught in all sorts of different cycles. So when I read the 37th and 50th on that vicious cycle, I was like, yeah, it was right there. That's why it didn't really seem like that much.
Mm-hmm.
Just seemed kind of like normal tough times, in a sense. Like you're just
Yeah.
grinding, working, and you're tired, and you're drinking too much coffee, and then you're missing your workouts, and well, your business has to keep going. So anyways, that was just amazing, along those lines.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. I've been like understanding that a little bit more too, like the programming partners and getting caught in the cycles of the shadows, like how they can feed into each other, how like you don't even realize that you're in like this. loop or this spiral. Um, yeah, it's funny because I like had an experience where I've been just working too much lately over the past couple weeks, and it kind of just like hit me. I like needed to take a nap so hard, and I like
Mm.
passed out on the couch like a couple days ago. But before that, I was like totally in my shadows, just like not like not being a nice person, not being like just like not being loving towards myself, not like just like all these things, and like then I realized I have to take care of myself. I have to go take a nap. I have to like get myself back to center. And
Mm.
I found like so I have the 40 in my pearl, which is divine will, resolve, and exhaustion. And
Me
Mm.
too.
yeah, um, and when that like exhaustion hits, it's like every other shadow just comes out. It doesn't matter. Like it's just it was I was feeling that, and I was like, I need to do something to to change this. I've also one of the Gene Keys that I listened to over the past couple of weeks because I got the audiobook, so I've been just like playing from one to I'm on like 10 or something right now. And one of the ones that stood out to me was number 9, and it was the shadow of inertia, the gift of determination, and the city of sacrifice. And it just seemed like the way they were talking about determination and like breaking out of the those shadows, those like loops within the programming partners is sort of through like these little tiny steps that you have to take, and you just have to keep taking them and keep kind of grinding to do the things that you know are right through determination. And like and then they were like really emphasizing that it gets easier. You know, it's like the one universal law that like if you approach that determination with love, it'll just keep rewarding you, and you'll just like walk towards that life path that you're meant to be on instead of like struggling to fight against it or struggling to, you know, not be trapped in the shadows. But that one was like, it was really cool because I felt like it could be used for literally every shadow. Like it's a way of transmuting and getting out of that shadow. It's a way of utilizing that specific gift to work
Helping,
yourself.
helping,
Yeah.
helping the 40, helping the divine will.
Hmm.
Okay,
Well, just
number 9.
helping kind of any of them is like if you're stuck in that loop, how do you break out of it? Like how do you even
Cool.
know you're in it or break out of it? You got to do these little things every day that sort of feed your soul, feed your body, feed your mind, um, and like find things in habits and lifestyle changes, and those will add up over time. And when they add up, it'll be like it just turns into like a way easier, not easier, but just like a better life, just kind of in general.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay, number 9. Awesome. Yeah, the 40th, prenatal chi and postnatal chi, that hit me hard. Like there, it's right there. That was like huge right there.
Yeah, how they talk about like you're inheriting basically like genetics, and that has a part to play in the amount of chi that you have at birth, and then like what
Yeah.
you can do from there to cultivate it, because it does make it like it makes a huge difference on your entire life, like who you were born from and what type of chi they have and how they utilize chi and how they cultivate chi. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah. 40 was a cool one. So you read that one fully?
Yeah, yeah. That was the one that really just along with that combination of 50 and 37, it told me to go to 40. It kept doing that. I was like, I'm trying to get to my radiance. I want to go to radiance. Like I'm going down. But anyways, yeah, it's kind of funny how it goes. You're just so curious, so curious. The note taking is challenging because you are bouncing around, right? A
Hmm.
little bit. And reading each other ones, you're like, okay, where was I when I read that?
Yeah.
But yeah, that really hit me, the pre and postnatal, and how you cultivate the pre. You only it's like it's like a video game with the power button, and you're running along and you're running low on energy. It's like, but you're still playing the game.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm.
I like how they go like throughout the book they'll go into the reactive and repressive natures of the shadows, and like I like that take on it because it can shadows can show up in so many different forms based on like who we are, and like we can have all these different lines within these shadows, but like even still, even within the line and the sphere, there's like these different repressive and reactive natures that are embedded in our genes and embedded in the like the programming that we get from our parents. I think is like one of the biggest things that determines whether it's reactive or repressed or whatever it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Repressive.
active. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So true. Yeah. Yeah. And that's true. It gives the again, it gives the words and the phrases, are so amazing to just, help you not only connect dots and bring up memories, but release those pretty much right then and there. And then right after that, I find myself contemplating about other things, So there is a subtleness to just even reading it. And I'm always like reading a paragraph or so, and I just love something he said. And then I just put my book down and kind of like zone out on the ceiling, thinking about that aspect, and so many uploads and releases of things I don't need anymore. And then of course shadows come in that talk to me about that. And I'm like, okay, well, you're saying that, that's fine. That's not what I'm, that's not where I'm going, but yes, thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
Right.
honor you for your part. Yeah, keep
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah.
Like, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome, man.
um yeah, that's cool. Did you guys happen to look at like the animal totems? um
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Michelle, didn't you say in last week's call that like your spirit animal was the dog?
Wait, so when I had my first reading with the Chaldean, the gematria one,
Okay,
just
yeah.
the name, it came back that I think my last name was a dog. My first name is I have like a squirrel, a mice, a dog, and a possum. And
Mm-hmm.
then my full name will be a total of moose as my full entire name. So I thought there was some connection, but I looked at, the gene key yesterday, and yeah, mine is actually like a life's work. Did you say life's work is as the masculine and then the feminine
Well, so
evolution?
that's just mine specific.
Oh,
Number one, like the Gene Key one is all about like the masculine, and
oh,
they talk about that how it relates to the I Ching and how they did that first, the
mm,
masculine, and then number two is the feminine, and it just so happens that it's bull and then cow, so it's
that's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah, a wild dog for sure. My life's work is a wild dog.
So yours is a wild dog, Michelle?
Hare, is that how you pronounce hare?
Hair,
Hare?
yeah.
I didn't even know what hare was. I Googled, I'm like, what is a hare? Because I mean, I still haven't heard of that. I'm like, oh, okay. And I see that it looks like a rabbit
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
Yeah, little bunny.
but I looked at all of them, yeah. Actually, well, since I went on vacation last week, I took the book with me. So I read the book like entirely on the plane because I was just there. I'm like, yes, I finally have some time. And I just started reading the Golden Path, and then I basically read all the way through, and I went back in a bunch of parts. But I was excited that I had that time, 3 hours in the plane just to kind of like
Wait, so you
it
read
was,
the whole book?
yeah, I did. I mean,
Nice.
I yeah, I did
Awesome.
read the whole book. Yeah, I know I was behind, but I'm like, you know what, this is the time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a full flight, so we have lots of space. So me and my girlfriend just kind of split up and stay like in a hole by itself. I was by myself, so it was just nice to read the whole thing. And yeah, there's a lot of some of revelations or like discoveries, like you guys were saying.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I think is the well, I'm a life's work 44 and evolution 24, and they're all line ones for me. I have
Hmm.
most line ones and line threes
Yeah.
for the whole the prime gifts.
Hmm.
It's a 24.1, evolution 24.1, and then I go 33.3, 19.3, which is, I know, is the creator and the self and self empowerment, I think, or self awareness.
Yeah.
So it was really cool because I think I could relate with the shadow, right? It's always, I mean, to kind of unlock and activate the gift in the city, you have to work on your shadow. I mean, the shadow is there for a reason. We all have
Mhm.
it. So I could see how, let's just say an example, right? Well, I was also listening to the Gene Key 24 that Kara sent the audio from my YouTube from this lady, the Asian lady. I actually listened to that one. It's really cool.
Nice.
And she talks a lot about the vicious circle that you guys were talking about. And my 24 is my 24, I think, is the ultimate addiction, right? So it's
Yeah.
addiction,
Invention and silence.
silence. So, and she was talking about the gap that most people, like when we find ourselves like, shit, what am I gonna do with my life? Where am I at? What path should I take? That's the gap of the shadow that most people kind of get scared of, kind of feeding that gap and or staying with that gap, right? There's like a resting gap, and then we get a little bit scared when we just get distracted, and then we'll miss that gap of evolving and unlocking that sequence.
Mm.
So that kind of resonate to me a little bit. I'm like, I see. Because sometimes I feel like, okay, I'm going on my path, and then it happens only mostly when I do something like you mentioned earlier. You're not taking care of yourself, right? Let's just say I went on a vacation, and of course I got off my diet, and of course that affects my emotional and my mental and how I feel physically. And I think that I read somewhere along, there's so many things that I'm reading, like somewhere that I read along the way, that when you're feeling pain or pleasure, you are getting healthier regardless, right? So at that moment that my emotion is like, oh, why did you eat so much? Or, oh, I don't feel that good. Or now I have to go through this. I feel like I'm on my shadow right there. And I know it's like when you feel those feelings and feel like kind of like crap, you want to do better. So you come back like even stronger. That's how kind of like how I felt. Yeah, I went on vacation and did what I did. Then you come back. It took me like a couple days of being kind of down because I'm like recovering or
Totally.
detoxing what I did. And that is the time that when you feel like not the greatest, that the thoughts come and how you feel. So I was like, this is just my opportunity to sit with it and
Mm.
feel the feelings and just kind of see what do I want to do from here? What kind of path do I want to take? Not that it's going to be a complete different path because I have my clients and stuff, but I'm like, like what else is there? I'm not just
Mhm.
going to be going to the same circle. There's something there. So I'm trying to kind of rest in that gap to break that cycle of the
Yeah.
circle. So
Finding that natural pause at the bottom
the
of
natural pause,
Yep.
true.
Yep. Good
Very
comment.
true. Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice.
So that was something that I was like, okay. That's why sometimes we always do that. It's not until you hit rock bottom that you start to climb up. And that's the battle that people need to go down so low. And I mean, I'm sure we all been there to finally realize. And I'm like, you live that shadow for so long that shadow is finally unlocks your gift. And you finally, okay, you know what? I need to get my shit together, like you were saying earlier, Peter, too. So I can kind of understand the shadow a little bit more now, why it's important to have the shadow. It's like so you can awaken somehow from some, yeah,
Yeah. So you can
physical.
evolve, yeah.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
has there been any specific moments in your life or just kind of taking that gift of invention? Is there any time where you felt you have evolved using that gift to get maybe through addiction or to go past addiction or to work from addiction? Is there anything specific that you can remember about kind of how you've evolved and how that plays into your key? Same question for you, Peter.
Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, that I'm thinking for sure.
Yeah.
What I say the ultimate addiction is that, like, it could be like a drug addiction or any addiction, but it can be the addiction she mentioned here, or Richard mentions of thinking and thinking and thinking, like you're so determined to do something that you're just too much on it, right? But I remember actually when back in 2004, maybe 2005 to like 2010, let's
Yeah.
just say 2005 to 9, those 4 years were definitely my lowest shadows, because I was working as a bartender back in New Jersey, and then I moved to California, and it was just really the nightlife. The bar closed at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. back in New Jersey, and there was a lot more. I was more exposed to drinking as a bartender. There's drugs everywhere. I mean, it
Yeah.
was crazy. And I remember growing up, I was always like very athletic and fit, and I love nature. I was always doing activities, and I'm like, I had to look at myself like, whoa, like what am I doing to myself? So that's
Mm.
when something really clicked. I had a friend that kind of gave me some ideas as well, because her friend was a personal trainer. She's like, hey, he's going to school, you'd be really good at that. And I'm thinking, man, my energy of teaching and being healthier was there always, and
Hmm.
it was buried for 4 years, because I mean I was still working out and eating healthy stuff, but I really dove deep into the party mode and late night. So that's when I started studying, and yeah, just being creative. I was always very creative. My dad is very creative, and he can invent anything. He can make anything. Like, he's a very caveman, extremely creative, very patient. So I'm
Hmm.
glad I got of that from him. But I'm definitely always like, I always call myself like the MacGyver. I can always come up with like if I don't have anything, just I can imagine something. It works just as the same way. Um, I worked a lot of my creativity with my clients as being a trainer and doing mobility. Is like
Very
always
cool.
think out of the box, because I get really bored doing the same thing over and over, and I like to just invent my own thing. So I think that's the life's work of the creator of the interference, teamwork, and synergy.
Hmm.
It, I mean, my life's work talks a lot about what I'm here for, and to help people and stuff like that. So I can definitely relate to that. It helped me get out of the shadow, though, on my heavy bartending years, for sure. It
That's
made
great.
just realize, like, man, I need to go back to that, because this is killing me.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool that you were able to use kind of fitness within that, like to move through the addiction phase into the invention phase and like really embody being
Hmm.
a creator in that sense and creating things with your clients and working through that. That's really cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. It is cool. Nice work. Nice
Thank
work.
Peter, do you have like kind of same question? Anything that kind of stood out to you in terms of how you've evolved or like kind of the biggest moments that you felt um, the greatest change in your life and how you faced that challenge through these keys? Anything stand out?
Um,
If not, I can
yeah,
talk.
yeah. I'll say a little bit. Just because I'm thinking of, I was so into what Michelle was saying. I'm thinking about my parallels of those things of, um, you know, I think there was a point in my life when I made a change to just really dive into being an exercise coach and personal trainer. And um but I was telling myself, like, one of my, I guess maybe it was my own little polygenic profile at the time. I was like, you know what, you feel like a Chevette trying to get on and merge on the highway with Corvettes. So you can get on the highway, but you feel like your engine's revving out to keep up with these other people who are just cruising. You know, people have already, you know, so-called have their shit together. Like, get your shit together. It's like, well, what is going on there? Well, that's what I feel like. I feel like these are the things that are holding me back from getting and being able to cruise at those same speeds versus a little like four banger that's, you know, got a bad exhaust and, you know, going down the highway. So when I was writing up the list of on another piece of paper of my hologenic profile and life's work, where here it is, where'd it go? The 1 second, go tempo. Oh, here we go. The 61.4, my life's work is 62, right? And then 61's totally tied in there. You know, they're like, you have to read this. Yep, okay. So the tempo with intense periods of clarity, that right there, like, let me say this. So my whole life I've been able to like do this cycle to keep me going, right? And be Peter, the character of Peter, which is I'd say been pretty successful and positive and just all these things even when I was younger, right? Just like, how do I figure out how to, you know, get better at something, right? Or kind of like Michelle, like, what, I want to make this thing, I want to do this certain exercise for people, I'm going to bolster it this way, and just getting creative. But the clarity doesn't happen all the time, right? And then you were saying, I was sitting there going, well, I want that all the time. It's like, well, it doesn't happen unless you have the is it silence on another gene key, where stillness. So you know, like you're saying, Colin, you got to take a nap. I'm sure when you woke up from the nap, you're like, oh man, and you were like kind of, you know, contemplating on the couch there, like feeling like you had a really deep sleep, you know. And then that's how I regenerate. I always have. Like, just as a young child, my mom said and I remember a few of them, but she'd find me like sleeping under a bush somewhere outside, you know, because that's what we did. We went and played outside, but she couldn't find me. I'd be like some random like bush or tree just sleeping, you know. So that was a huge thing there. Radiance,
Yeah.
and then radiance, letting go of holding on to things, detachment, and then a big one is why I'm so inquisitive as a kid. I was just the shadow of that is like expectations, you know. So expectations kind of takes me out of my clarity, and my motor's running hot, and then I gotta like do stillness, you know. So I don't know if that makes sense all the way, but that's why I can't.
It like when you have too much expectation, you lose your sense of purpose almost.
Yeah, I'm just like so positive. I'm like, you know, maybe you guys have felt this, like when you want to help clients and you're in your mode like that, and you're like, okay, I want more clients, or I want to help more people, and then you have all these ideas and you're flowing, and that's why you have that clarity of like, oh man, so fired up. Well, at a certain point, you know, you're gonna get hungry and you get tired, you're gonna be distracted, or you know, that's gonna fade a little bit. So yeah, the expectation, once I was up on a high of clarity, then I want everybody to do it. And this is why you should do it. And you said you were gonna. So that ties into like, you know, holding people almost too accountable in my life, which only hurts me, because even though they said in their supportive nature, which I let them I let certain people be that way. You know what I mean? So there's another shadow, you know. It's just so amazing to just notice, like, I've always done that, even as a young child, like rotating through. Like, for me, I would just go sleep somewhere and
Mm.
regenerate on my own, just like, wow, I'm totally fine with myself, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I've always done these things, so it's really cool to look at these words that tie into that, and then of course the profile, and you can move around in the lines. They all make a lot of sense that way, of like, I've I've always done a certain, we all have, probably, right? We've all had a certain cycle in life that's been the positive, and now we want more,
Mm.
and is gonna face us up against more of the shadows. But since we contemplate, it's like, we want answers, is really what's happening here, right? We want the clarity of, like, just tell me exactly what it is, and I'll work with it, and I'll get on the highway here with these other cars, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's all kind of coming around again. It's like, I want to do so many things right now, and then my art is my way of having some stillness and some non-attachment, and just letting the process of present itself. And I, like,
Mm.
have a couple projects going, and they just all kind of make themselves, really.
Yeah.
I don't even really try, which is, an amazing part of that
Yeah.
whole art process for me. But we're all doing that. We're all doing that in a fashion. These are honing out the reactive and the, what's the other one?
Repressed.
Reactive and the repressed. Um, they're just these really, guiding lines of clarity, even when you're looking at something that's like, yeah, I do that. That's how I get off track. You always know that. Um, so yeah, the knowing that inherently I was already doing as a kid,
Mm.
and yeah, and 4, 5, 6, you have less traumas. Obviously, you have some. Um, maybe some people have more, right? Some
Yeah.
people have less. But I figured before age 7, you're pretty much figuring it out on your own. You're just doing it. You're not even thinking about it. You're just doing it.
Yeah.
So,
Kids that age are like enlightened in a way because their emotional centers aren't like, they're like fully active, but their brain doesn't like their mental capability doesn't fully understand all of it, and they
mhm,
just process things immediately. Like they're not afraid to cry, you know, when they need
yeah,
to, or scream, or laugh, or whatever. It's just right off the
uh-huh,
cuff.
yeah, yeah. Have a burst of energy and ride your big wheel down like a whole, like 2 sets of stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's pretty amazing, hearing what Michelle was saying too. Just that, and we're all have been helping people, we're
Mm.
trainers, and yeah, we do invent things. Um, that's really what it's coming down to, is just like, I love myself, and I'm so happy to be able to push forward without pushing forward.
Mm.
Almost relieving a certain angle of an anxiety, you know,
Mm.
that goes on. Just like, I think I'm slowly through this. I see the hints of being able to just, like, not really stop it, but just kind of go, well, if I'm going through a period of anxiety, there's also going to be a something right in it. Like Michelle was saying, there's something right in it that is going to present itself to go, oh, okay, well, and then it's, not to say gone, but it's fading, it's weaker, it's not as, I guess in the end it's going to be less prevalent,
Yeah.
those periods. And if they come out, they'll be mostly shorter, unless we're out of out of the other cycles, and we're tired and we've been pushing too hard, and you know, letting other things come in, and then life events can happen and throw you off too. But family or friends or something.
I
Like
like
a
how you,
friend of mine just died a few weeks ago. I hadn't seen him in years, but he's a dear friend. It's like, holy shit. So that was like almost a month ago now. But that I felt that throwing me into thinking about him and their experiences, and then that put me on a lower plane. But then I was like, well, that's all right. I kept going back to what I was saying about the kid. Like, we just do that, right? We just flow through. So
Hmm,
those are the things I'm noticing about this.
very cool. Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for sharing.
thank you. How
That's,
about you, man?
yeah,
Yeah, what about you, Kalman? When did you feel there was a shift that was really noticeable
yeah,
with
so
your
it's
life?
actually kind of funny. I woke up this morning and it kind of just hit me. Just, I didn't even, like, I was just thinking about the words within my life's work and my evolution. And it goes in my life's work, it's the one, and it goes from entropy to freshness to beauty. And then my evolution is number two, and it goes from dislocation to orientation to unity. And I, um, I have a history of using psychedelics. Uh, like I've tripped probably close to 100 times, if not more, in my life. I love psychedelics. I love. I've used to be more into LSD, but I love mushrooms. That's like my go-to. Um, I've microdosed, I've medium, I've macroed on like a large dose before, and it was really funny because I work at a CBD shop and I talk to people. We sell like mushroom bars, and I talk to people all the time about what mushrooms do to your brain. And what they do is they cause entropy. They cause chaos in your brain, in your neural pathways. So like you have, and this is what I explain to them every time I'm selling them something, you have these grooves in your neural pathways. And it's every time you think of something, every time you think of something new, or just think of something in general and you repeat that pattern and you repeat an action, say you put on your sock, you do it so many times it becomes ingrained and then it becomes automatic. So
Mhm.
it also becomes a little harder to maybe veer off of that path because it's so grooved in your brain. It's called a syntax. So what entropy does and what kind of psychedelics can do, they use this quote in the book called "How to Change Your Mind" by Michael Pollan. He goes through like a lot of the psychedelic drugs and he talks about what LSD and mushrooms do, and what they do, they cause entropy, which is basically like chaos. It's like chaos within a structure. So think of your brain, it gets like kind of mush for a minute. And then through that, through your brain reorganizing itself and orienting itself again, you create new neural pathways and you think differently about maybe the same thing you were thinking about. So like you're able to take kind of a wider view, or maybe if you're doing it with movement, you're more creative and explosive with your movements and your choice of movements. So through my evolution, like some of the biggest moments in my life were when I was like almost using this medicine or these psychedelics as like an intentional process for me to process my past, work on
Mhm.
myself in the present, and think about how I want to implement things in the future. So it was like I was I feel like there was something about the connection between me using these psychedelics and going to like concerts, because something about the energy and the music and the vibration allowed my brain to like sort of work itself into new neural pathways and create new neural pathways. And that's like the orientation. And it was something fresh and new, so freshness that I was bringing to my own psyche, to my own like subconscious and conscious mind through like utilizing these things. And it was like I have distinct memories of myself kind of putting my life together, or piecing my life back together, or what I want to do in the future, like in the middle of a concert, thinking about maybe I should go, move to California and work for the like I don't know, like whatever it was, like it
Awesome.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just for
Oh,
me, that's like kind of how my brain works, and that's um
Mm.
kind of how I've challenged myself to evolve. In that same sense, like I'm a line three. So they were talking in the recent chapter about how line three is about experience and utilizing experience to evolve, but it can also be caught in the shadow. Like I can get caught trying to continue to evolve by chasing that experience. So it was definitely something I learned in the process of going through to festivals and shows and to experimenting with psychedelics and finding where my burnout was or where my exhaustion was in that 40, where it transformed or where it was too much. And so like I've been able to since then, you really utilize the psychedelics intentionally, um, with purpose, with uh, like a goal in mind before I even take them, or to just like be thinking about something that I want to think about more before I enter. And so like I have like these, like I'm always as part of my culture, and this is something that I've been like, this key speaks to me so much. I think I talked about it last time about the four and how I ask why. And so I'm always asking why. I'm always trying to find answers. It's understanding. So I just like want to understand everything. I want to understand why, how I can make myself work in this world, how the world works in such a way that doesn't allow that, how I can work with others, how the world works in and of itself in all the different aspects. So it yeah, I was like just it's funny that like contemplation allows just inspiration to just happen. Uh and these thoughts to just come in when you just think about even the words themselves. And I've heard and listened to the one and two like a few times now. Like I've reread them and trying to understand them more. There is a whole masculine and feminine aspect to it, which is something that's been very prevalent in my life like for a long time, just those archetypes, um, not fully understanding what they are throughout my whole life, like not fully understanding how to step into my own masculinity, how to embody the feminine without it, like how to find balance within the two, um,
Yeah.
and not letting one kind of overrun the other. And that's just been like sort of a little bit of a challenge, I think, for me. Just throughout growing up, through high school, puberty, like all that stuff, just didn't really understand things about life. But as I like age more, and as I gain more wisdom and just knowledge, I'm feel like I'm stepping into it more now than I've ever stepped into it. Like every other day, I'm just like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This makes sense. Like this checks out. Um, and it's funny because I've gone through a little bit of the human design stuff too. And we did that, me and Katie did that video, the South and the North Node, and how like the South and the North Node is where you're coming from, and then where you're moving to is the North Node. And so I'm coming from the feminine, like in my past life. So like I'm still carrying that forward, but I'm like now I'm stepping into the masculine in this life, and that's where I'm supposed to like learn and like embody it. So, but I have like I feel like I've always been connected to the feminine, maybe a little bit more just throughout my life. I've like always been pretty creative, um,
Yeah.
and just like untapped. I can just like do those things, but I lacked a lot of structure and even discipline in a lot of ways. It was sort of chaos, um, that entropy, but it's really cool. Yeah. So like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
Um, what, when was the first time you, or one of the first times that, or one that stands out of when you said before you entered, you kind of think about something that you wanted to concentrate on or let flow through your body, right?
mhm.
What was one of the ones that stands out to you right now about that?
Hmm. Hmm. So I have I don't know if I've shared this with you guys, but I have an autoimmune disease. I think you guys know maybe about it, but like it made it like really, really difficult for me to walk for like about 2 years. It was like a lot of pain.
Mm.
Um, and I remember going to a festival in 2019, and there was something about um like the movement, it was one of those things where I surrendered to it, and it wasn't necessarily something I'd thought of beforehand, but it was like something that I knew there was an answer like in the back of my head, like I knew there was something I could do to kind of fix it. And so I had this literally this fear of like moving in certain ways, due to the pain that I was feeling. So like it would certain friction, it was like a skin thing. So certain friction would just cause immense amounts of pain. So I couldn't walk forward, I couldn't move forward. But I was at this festival and I started dancing. And I was in a comfortable place where I was like flowing energetically. I was sweating. I was having a good time. And there was like this moment where my brain like switched and I was able to do this like movement that I hadn't done in 2 years, which was like kind of spin and move around. And then it like after that, like the fear was gone. So the fear in and of itself transmuted, and then it allowed me to just like continue my life in the way that I wanted to. That was like one of the biggest things for me. I think I had like when I was working in corporate, um, all I wanted to do was get out of it. So I'd use these psychedelic like opportunities to think about ways to, I don't know, pick up a second job or like how I can be creative with certain things. And I like that's when I was like diving into being an artist. And if you scroll down on my Instagram page, there's like tons of art I used to do. I used to do a lot of trippy art, and I was trying to sell a bunch of it at one point, um, and stuff like that. But even more so, just I'm trying to think. There was a couple other ones where I wanted to I wanted to just dive deep into myself and just spend time with myself. The most I've done is about 10 grams. And that one, like, the amount of energy that I got from it was insane. I was bouncing off the walls, and I was doing a lot of like fascia work, like with my movements and even on myself. Like I was like massaging myself and like in a weird way fixing myself with all this energy that I had. And then it dipped into like a serious moment of introspection where I just needed to be alone. And I just like left. I was at a party with like 15 or 18 people or something, and I just left to go be by myself for a little bit and just contemplated like my relationships with my family members and um, just like the people in my life and how I wanted to maybe better those relationships or just see like, yeah, how I can be a better person. So it's just, yeah, a lot of that stuff. um
That's amazing.
yeah, I feel like there was more. There's been so many of them that are just really great. I've had such good conversations with people, um
Wow.
just like flowing energy wise when it comes to that stuff. uh in a
Yeah.
way it like sort of your brain's like firing on all these cylinders that it's not usually firing on. That's why you need like a couple days of recovery after you do like a bigger trip. Um, your brain's like a little bit of mush after because it was firing so fast, but you gain so much. Like from that experience, I've gained so much each time I do it, and like even at the beginning, um, there was so much there wasn't really that much fear around it. I never really approached it with fear. I know a lot of people do approach psychedelics with fear, which is like they just amplify your own conscious mind. So if you're healthy in your own mind, you're not going to have a problem with psychedelics. It's just enhancing that. You might get a little uncomfortable with some of the physical sensations because it is moving blockages through your body, um, and that can be a little uncomfortable. Like a lot of people, when it's called a come up, they get like a little antsy because they're feeling these sensations in your body, but it breaks, and then you get like this relaxation. It's this bubble that comes up and explodes, and then you're left with like just yourself, and then you get to do whatever you want with it and have the energy to do that. Um,
Wow. Wow.
so I've like, yeah, so I've really experimented with a lot of LSD and mushrooms, but I've also like what I want to do in the future is more heavier plant medicine. And I think not next year, but maybe the year after, I want to look into doing some ayahuasca and find out about it. That's my three, my three in life, my point three. I'm here to experience things and then share them, share my whatever comes from it, and go into it with a like an open mind.
Yeah. Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
also wanted to share something else that like kept popping up for me as I was listening to a couple different keys. They talk about like going within and going inwards, um, and all these words kept getting like I kept noticing a lot of similarities between the words of how to go within and what to do when you're inside yourself. And it all starts with words that literally start within. So we have things like inspiration. We have things like invention. Like I wrote down a bunch of them just because I kept hearing them as I was listening to it. So within you have your individual, you involution. So the evolution, but involution. It's inside yourself. Innovation, intuition, understanding, as opposed to understanding, like understanding.
Yeah.
Interdependence was one. I think there's
in,
like what was that?
insight, right?
Yeah, insight, interoception, even when it comes to the body. Like we talk about proprioception, and that's like if somebody does that, you feel it, and that's proprioception. You feel that tap on your skin. But interoception is the literally what's inside you, what's going on inside you, like how your muscles are moving inside you, or how your organs are moving, how your breath is moving. So I just thought it was really cool. These things kept popping up, all it's all within. How to do
Yeah.
these things really comes from within. How to utilize your gifts is to just go inward.
Yeah, inspired. I mean, instincts. I mean, everything, right?
Yeah,
I think
there's so
about that.
many of them within, even
Yeah,
within all the keys. Um, yeah, I thought that was really
that's
funny.
crazy. No, that's
Yeah.
really cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Think I think I had maybe 4 to 5 experience with mushroom, but like you said, I was a little bit more in fear, my state of mind, because of some sort of trauma. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I think someone, a friend of ours gave me, my girlfriend, some fresh mushrooms, and we just decided to make some tea.
Hmm.
We did. We just made a lot of tea, and it was pretty strong. And I'm like, yeah, well, I drink the tea. So it was too much for me. So
Mm.
I did experience a lot of anxiety, but I had a couple of really good times with it. And I think LSD, my body dealt a little bit better with that than the
Mm.
mushroom at the moment. But yeah, experienced a little bit of that. It's just like, I guess is that feeling like you're saying that there's no thinking about anything at all. You don't even know there's a world that exists. They have work or friends or family. This is just the moment. So it's just like when a very clean Molly hits you, like, oh my God, this just feels amazing. Like it's been a while, but that's that feeling of peace and
Mm.
just being 100% real. It's
Yeah.
just very, yeah, it's very cool. It's very
Yeah,
cool.
MDMA opens up your heart chakra completely.
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
it's always just pure love that comes out of that. I
Sure.
saw a study recently that said they were like talking about the benefits of what's called candy flipping, which is adding Molly to acid
Oh
or
wow.
LSD. And like in a way, LSD makes you look at your shadows, makes you look at your ego, your like all that darkness kind of inside you. But if you do that with an open heart, it sort of makes things a little smoother in terms of like an experience. So it makes sense. Like it just makes sense. Obviously, we're not here condoning any hard drug use or anything like that, but um there's
What
you know
do they call it? What's the phrase for doing that? You
it's
combine them or take them at different
called
times?
candy flipping.
You take them together or
Yeah.
later or separate?
Yeah, like I think there's ways to time it.
Uh-huh.
But I'm pretty sure, yeah, you don't take them all at the same time, I don't think, but like you can utilize them in a certain way. Like if you're so like with psychedelics, usually you have a come up, and then the rest of it's like you kind of come down the rest of it. So like usually trips for LSD are around like 7 to 9 hours. So like
Yeah.
you come up for the first hour and a half, hour 45, and then you're tripping, and then you're just tripping for like 7 hours, and it eventually just kind of winds down to nothing. Uh, but like during that come up is like the toughest part. So maybe you don't do Molly during that point, but you do it like micro
Uh,
amounts throughout. But like I don't know, there's
wow.
so many different ways to create kind of those cocktails of
I
experimenting
see.
with that. I have personally done a lot of experimenting and combining, but everything in moderation, know how to recover from it.
Mhm.
It's like yeah, that's part of the shadow of my three, like I I was like probably utilizing those experiences to maybe escape or um to not evolve from or to search for it too much, to try and keep evolving when I need to, utilize my life force and chi energy to do what's what's necessary, implement the things that I wanted to use or that I wanted to change in my own mind after those trips. That takes life force and energy, takes that chi. So it's like that, at least that's how it's applying to me. Um, it's funny, I can see it in my keys. um, yeah.
That's super cool. Thanks for sharing that for sure. That's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
really, I've never heard of that, but that makes a lot of sense. To one that's gonna experience that, and then like, yeah, why not? Why not?
Yep. Ready
I
for
wouldn't.
like for
What was
Huh.
that, Michelle?
sorry to interject, Peter. I was saying, like Peter was saying, you have to be ready for that, because some people are afraid, and if you're ready for, I mean, you're gonna get a lot of insights and a lot of energy from it and creating, but it's also gonna take a lot of your energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I know how it is recovering from the moment that you're going. I mean, you're creating, but you're creating energy, but then at the same time, to recalibrate, you're gonna have to, it sucks the energy out of you for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And you get to that point that you're like, okay, this is really reality. What am I gonna do with myself now moving forward? So you have to be ready for, like you're ready to explore. You're like, you know what? Let's do it. Like I'm ready for it. That's really cool.
Mm.
Yeah. There's something here in my evolution, on my hologenetic profile that I can really relate. Um, like I mentioned before, when I was on that deep, actually, when I worked as a bartender in New Jersey, I worked as a bartender for about 3 years. Then
Mm-hmm.
I moved and it was completely different in New Jersey, right? So I ended up working at a strip club, something that I haven't shared, I don't think. I
Mm-hmm.
did work waitress and a bartender in a strip club, and I also worked as a dancer before. And that was like one of the craziest time, like I said, it's one of those things that I needed to do because I needed it, money, and you get paid a lot of waitressing, bartending, and eventually I was dancing because they were short of dancers. So I'm like, you know what, why not? And at one point it was my birthday, and they do this thing that they put you on stage and they just sing happy birthday. Everybody goes and tip you, right? And man, I swear to God, I made $1,200 on that. On that time, right? Because people
Wow.
just they make it rain, right? It's not an all time thing. And I was like, wow. And at that point, I had knee surgery on my both knees. I had my ACL replacement and my meniscus on my right. And there was a lot of money that I had to pay. So I took the challenge of working a strip club, and it was a lot. It was a great environment, super fun. So that's when, from waiting, bartending, and I actually danced for 2 years out of my life on a strip club. And it was tough though, because I did it because I needed to come up with some money and I needed to work too. And I was figuring out how my life was going to go. But at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of drugs and alcohol
Mm.
involved. And you kind of, you know, there's a lot of people that do things sober too. But, anyways, that's when I really found that I got out of that shadow and became a personal trainer. And then I was loving it, helping all my clients. It was healthy and I felt good. But then I think it's my gene key 24. There's the repressive and then the reactive, right? The repressive is like you numb yourself with stuff, and the reactive, you like you stimulate yourself with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely the reactive is stimulating, and it talks about being a workaholic. And I know my girlfriend mentioned that to me quite a few times, and I didn't think it was like anything,
Mm-hmm.
but I started working so much and taking so many clients because I wanted to help so many clients that I probably became a workaholic. You
Mm-hmm.
know, worked in the gym for like 10 plus years. So then, you know, you come out of a shadow and then you evolve and then you get into other shadows, right? And because you're reacting, my reactive nature. And then here, my evolution says, the challenge for you is to balance your deep understanding of others with your own need for space and silence. So I now, 2 years ago, since I started my detox and my breathing, I feel like I evolved into that sense of really just like, okay, it's almost like I wanted my clients to succeed more than they did, you know,
Mhm.
so giving them much more that they were giving me. So I started to feel like, I mean, some clients, they just really suck the energy out of you, you know, and I was taking all kinds of clients. So I started to kind of filter a little bit more because, like, oh, more clients, more money, more clients, I get to help them, I'll make more money. Like the
Mm-hmm.
byproduct. So I realized that the past 2.5 years that I was like, you know what, I can do this. I need my time. I need to balance their
Mhm.
needs with needs. So I feel like my evolution on GK24, it really speaks to me. The right in the beginning, it starts like that. So I was like, huh.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Good
pretty
for
cool. And
you. It is.
it says that my instincts about them, it's always right. And I, you know, I'm definitely like I'm an empath, you know. I just feel so much for them, and I want to help them so much that I forget that I need to recharge, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah.
that sticks with me with my evolution to
Mm.
have time, and I've been really having so much more time for myself in silence because again, I just decreased my hours of work by I work a third of what I was working in, and you know, just facing all this stuff, and it's kind of fun to go to your shadow and contemplating like, huh, that's really how I used to be as a kid. I've been buried by all these distractions, you know, from life, but now I'm like going back to my essence, like when I was a kid, grew up in nature, barefoot, just hey, go with the flow, no plans, everything's gonna be fine, kind of thing.
Mhm. Oh, thanks for sharing.
But yeah,
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a great life story right there. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Tapping into your naturalness. That's the Gene Key 10. We talk about that.
yeah, and people are like, wait, why? You're a dancer, you're a strip. What? Like, I'm like, hey, things happen. You gotta just, it was an opportunity and it was really fun. I mean, there's a lot of ways that people see that job. And I used to have a different perception when going to like a strip club or something, which
Mm-hmm.
I had ages. But then when you actually inside and working and meet them, I mean, they're just humans. The girls are just like everybody else, and it's a family the same way. And there are people that are there doing drugs and drinking every day and going out with people. But there's the other ones that have tons of mom and kids, and this super one of my really good friends that she never drank, never did any drugs. She was an amazing dancer, and she'll make so much money. She invests in so much, bought many houses, and then after a while she got out and she has her whole life together, you know, so you just have to be smart
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
Every time I was on my shadows, like, or experiencing just really partying and drinking and drugs, always in the back of my head, it's like I did it with moderation. Like you said, there were some times that I kind of went too much of it, but I was always trying to be a responsible uh, drug user. You
Yeah,
may say,
I say
Yeah, imagine
everything
that.
everything in moderation, including moderation.
oh
Right.
man, so
It's all
there
right
it
to
is.
experience the
Awesome.
extremes every once in a while.
Right. Oh my God, see, I even got blush. I can see myself. Oh, red. Oh, like, okay, I had to open up to you guys. Say, it's now you know.
Yeah, no judgment at all. Not at all.
No, no worries.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. Um, did you guys happen to look up like anything about your animals at all? Like it's there's no specific thing on the Gene Keys website. It's more like you once you find your animals, you can just look up like spiritualism of a cow, and it'll give you like a bunch of traits and stuff to kind of look
I was
into.
Yeah.
gonna ask about that actually, Kama. Like when you find, let's say, okay, I found wild dog, and do I just Google it what a wild dog is?
Yeah,
Like, so
totally. Like wild dog, spirit, totem, animal.
got it.
Wow.
I've used animals for a while now. I've actually had like probably like 3 or 4 spirit animals throughout my entire life. Um, and it's like not hard to like you can use like tarot cards and stuff to like pick some if you want. Um, but there's just so much information out there about like kind of the spirituality behind certain animals and like how they're like because of what they are as animals, there's like certain symbology that unravels as you read about them. Like for example, when I was like 4 years old, I went to this kid's birthday party and he had like a magician and like some guy from like the zoo come by with a bunch of animals. And he had this like yellow snake that was like this freaking big. And I was like 4 years old. And I was like, does anybody want to hold it? And I was like, me, me. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So I've always like kind of been into snakes. And like through that, through especially when I started kind of using psychedelics and when I started to like really transform my life and my mind and my spirit and my soul, I started to utilize kind of that energy. And it was, in a way, psychedelics cause you to experience what's called an ego death. And in that same sense, I connected it to a snake because the snake sheds its skin. It has to shed its skin in order to kind of continue living, to evolve. It can't hold on to the same dead skin, otherwise it'll just be a weight. And then they like, what are they moving around with like a bunch of dead skin attached to them, and they can't do what they need to do to survive. So that was like one of the biggest ones. And I've always been connected to eagles. I actually have a tattoo of an eagle. My dad has the same tattoo and has had it since I was a kid, his whole life. And it's funny because I found out that the highest version of the eagle, because sometimes animals can evolve themselves into other animals, the highest version is a phoenix. And in that same capacity, phoenix rises from its own ashes. It has to die to be rebirthed again. So there's this constant like thing that keeps coming up in my life of how to evolve and how I just need to continue to dissolve my ego and rebuild it and let the building phase enter into a new death. And so it's like these like micro kind of cosmic reactions that happen throughout my whole life, which in and of itself is a whole cycle. So like there's a life and death within my own life, and then there's life, all these little lives and deaths of my spiritual consciousness and my ego. So it's just kind of cool to look into that as animals, as spirit animals. I've always kind of like been attracted to that type of animal, those types of animals. I have another one that uh, I utilize because, you know, like a lot of people say like, oh, I'm an extroverted introvert or whatever. Like I do enjoy uh, socializing. I love communities. I love making friends. I love the friends that I have in my life. But I also really enjoy my solitude. And one animal that like stood out to me was a turtle because it has its own little shell that it can kind of just like go and hide into and just like recover and do its own thing. And so like when I was sick and when I like was dealing with that autoimmune thing, that was my turtle. And I just like shelled myself for like 2 years and didn't really go out and do much and just did as much relaxation and rest and recovery as I could in order to be able to come back out in the world again. Uh, so it's just like cool stuff like that that I like to connect. Um, so it's not to say that you have like you're tied to one specific animal either. You can utilize the medicine of the spirit animals at any time. Anything that you feel intuitively connected to. Uh, so like I definitely do connect to the bull and the cow, um, which are my one and two of my life's work and my evolution. And I think they're awesome. Those are the gifts. There's the birds are the cities, so there's ways to work within that too. But like the gifts is like kind of the main one, and then the insects are the shadows. But so like I was thinking about, you know, like the bull. The bull is like majestic and powerful and has strength and fortitude and like all of these big kind of masculine words that allow it to stand strong. And then the cow is just nurturing. In Ayurveda and in India, they consider the cow the second mother. It's like it's all fertility, it's all nourishment and health from that standpoint. They, you know, like there's so much sturdiness even within that. Like they talk about tipping cows. Like there's like it takes a lot to tip a cow, but like they they're like sturdy on all four legs and they're sound in the way that they express themselves and the femininity is all about being like kind of the mother in the cow. So I connected with that as well. But yeah, would love to hear if you guys have anything, or if you want to just like, if you didn't look at it this week, you can take a look this next week and, you know, share next week what kind of comes up for you.
That's so cool. Oh my God, comment. I love wow, and I love the bowl. Wow. You know what? Funny thing, because right now I just literally went and Googled wild dog spiritual
Hmm.
totem. And the first one that popped, I just pressed on it just for fun.
Hmm.
And it's so crazy. It says meaning and messages. So it says, in this case, wild dog symbolism is often a sign that you're giving too much to others and keeping little or nothing to yourself. Dude, I just spoke about that
You
shit.
just said that.
Before I even go there, I'm like, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, the synchronicities are awesome.
yeah.
That's
So
great.
that first paragraph I read, I'm like, drop the mic. I'm like, okay, let me just go into those animal spirit. I was just saying that before I even go there. It's just so cool.
Yeah. Wow.
And it says here, better to have a family of 3 people who genuinely care about you than to have 1,000 friends. That's totally me. Like me, my girlfriend, my little dog, we're like, I'm good, guys. Like we really rely on each other all the time because, you know, we live with the parents and the views are different. So, you know, the privacy and stuff. So, but it's funny because I think it's pretty cool to be a wild dog. You have that in me.
Yeah,
Really
I
That-
love that.
cool. I mean, every animal, it's
Yeah.
amazing. So, oh, and you know what? I actually saw the insect. I think it's insect or fish, right? Isn't that what it is?
It's insect, yeah. Oh yeah, ant or fish, yeah.
So, and I saw mine was a bee, that I have a bee as an insect. And I was like, wow. And I'm not joking. So I go down to the gazebo because my client's house or my friend. And I was reading, I said, okay, wild dog, hair. And then when I said B, literally I read B, and then it was like zzz, right over my was I was a bee, but the insect that flew over my head at the time I read, and I was like, whoa. And I'm alone here, right? It's like a huge house. I was like, okay, this is cool. Also, I have what do I have on mine? I looked at all the keys and the animals that the Richard Rudd talked about it, the flying fish.
Mm.
Mm,
Yep.
cool.
There's a lot of those flying fishes here, so it's just cool. But yeah, wow, I gotta read
Yeah.
a little bit more, and then we'll talk about it next week. That's something fun for sure. Everything is super fun.
I bought a like an animal totem. It's like a tarot card deck, and it's got like a whole book that comes with it, and a lot of these animals are in that book. So I'll have to share like the chapters. I'll share the chapters in the chat because there's so what Peter, yours are there's the 60 no 61 and 62, right? Yeah. So the
Yeah.
yours is the Lynx and the Black Panther. That's cool.
Yeah.
There's
Right. And
go ahead.
That's
totally.
Peter. You said you would go to the bush and you wanted to get away from people. Black Panther, they're just right there.
Yeah. The yeah, that was pretty amazing to look at that. Like it was the first thing that come to mind is like, dude, you
You,
it wasn't with judgment, but I was like, who you are, but like chill. Like yeah, it kind of just woke me up. I'm like, wow, because I've always liked the cats, and we actually had a Maine Coon tabby, which looks like a lynx.
Nice.
Uh, so that was pretty amazing. But what happened at first was I went down the from where Kalma's was. I went straight down, but I somehow I my eyes went over to where the birds were. You know, the
Yeah.
birds the first column. So when I went down the column from animal, I somehow started looking at what I was in those, in the birds, and the woodpecker. I was like, because, and I'll tell you in a second, just wild because I see a masculine and feminine there probably with the, was it the wren? Is the wren and the woodpecker?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool. But I've been enthralled with owls for a couple of years now,
Mm.
and a lot of the imagery I see has been owls. But now when I saw the woodpecker, I'm like, there's a couple of pieces I haven't really known what they were. I was like, well, it could be an owl. I mean, everything's abstract, anyways,
Hmm.
but it's making sense now that I was I'm channeling the woodpecker because I was starting to see these instead of the eyes was the focus. I started seeing more beak, you know.
Yeah.
So, uh, um, yeah, I could do show and tell sometime, but there's a couple pieces that I kind of found that I was like, this is cool. It's not an owl. Something else is happening because I've been through a few different animals that I've seen um, over the last few years, just randomly. But the bird has been like a big one. So anyway, I was like, wow, woodpecker, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
With the me always like wanting to know things like tell me everything. Why? Well, you know, like you said, why? You know, like da, 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 da. And then the wren sounds like just like a loving thing, like two birds like wrapping their wings around each other and hugging, you know, like that
Hmm.
kind of thing. That's what it gives me a picture of. But anyhow, yeah, when I looked at the lynx and the Black Panther, I was like, yeah, dude, you're a badass. Came to my mind for a half, you know, just that,
that's awesome.
like, whoa, you do have that when you question yourself and contemplate and like, and then shadows, can I do that? Like, how am I gonna do that? Shit, dude, I don't know. And then you get other downloads and you're excited again. It's kind of like, well, how does I mean, we look at Goda and all the different stuff, looking at animals, and panthers, they just kind of glide in like slow motion, you know, when they're walking. It's like, so very smooth, very
Yeah.
smooth. It's like, it's okay. They're not in a hurry, only when they want to be, you know. It's kind of like what came to my mind, like, yeah,
Hell yeah.
you are
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
have that is just, I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting to see in an animal. I decided to say that. I was just, so maybe that's why I got that download. That it's kind of surreal to, like, yeah, okay, just another sign that everything always works out. Really,
Going from the
you know, that's a bit.
panther to like a sympathetic, you need it, you know,
Yeah.
that could be it for sure. Yeah, no, that's really cool.
Oh, sorry, cut out. What'd you say?
I said it's
Parasympathetic. The
it's
video
going
kind of chopped up.
that you're really smooth, right? The panther is always really smooth. So you just like on the parasympathetic, you need to go to that quick drive and sympathetic, you can. That's when you said
Yeah.
mind with the breath.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The supple leopard that Kelly Startlet. Yeah. Got it. Thank you. Yeah. You're so right. Yeah.
I think you're cutting off a little bit.
Yeah.
There, but
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look. So how do we determine, like, we just look at all the animals and then just start looking up their characteristics and then kind of contemplate all those. Just go straight across.
See how it affects or how it like relates to your life's work, your radiance, your evolution, like how each one specifically, but if you have one already in your own mind that you connect to, like on a deeper level, see how that can connect. Yeah, it's kind of wild. I was just thinking about the snake and like one of the other biggest symbolic things about the snake is the double helix, like the two snakes that go around the scepter that
right
medicine. Like that's an ancient symbol, and that represents literally the DNA helix, the basic building blocks of life, really like gene keys. Like that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
I have a quick question, actually. Well, I didn't realize that your gene key of your life's work is the programming partner of Revolution and vice versa. You know, I was in the plane. I'm like, oh, okay. And then your radiance, your purpose as well. Those are the opposite, right? The
correct.
partner.
Yeah.
All like that, even though there's 11. I mean, you would have, how does that, are they all like that or just on the primary?
No, just the activation sequence has the programming partners.
Gifts, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I realized that until I was like, oh, okay. So the 44 is the 24 and the 24 is the 44. That's why I need them to work in
so try and contemplate how those two shadows create that loop, or those two gifts create that loop, and how to work and stay in, or not stay in, but just like how to work with those frequencies. Yeah, like I think I mentioned, like the entropy creates dislocation in my own brain, you know, and then through orientation I can create freshness, create new neural pathways, create new things in my life, bring freshness to my life or to others, my communities.
Yeah, it's kind of cool when you started to understand a little bit more, just natural, like, oh, okay, oh, that's why they're interconnected. And some people are gonna have the same gene key in different phases or spheres, and that makes us all as one, you know, some point we all connected. But it's pretty cool. Okay, so my shadow for it'll be interference and addiction for the life's work and evolution. So I didn't look together. So now I'm like, okay, gotcha. And then Synarchy and Silence being the city of both. So they go
Hmm.
play together, and then invention and teamwork as a gift. I see. There's so many ways to look at it, right? Like
Very
he
cool,
was.
right?
I started to read the Gene Keys, the book as well.
Mm.
Besides just he's like the beginning of the book, because it's just so like I was reading Bad yesterday. And it's funny because as I was reading, I was getting a little tired, but then I was kind of zoning out and going through a certain space from what I was reading, almost like that dreamy state, but related to what I was reading, which was really cool. And I
Mm.
was like, it's almost like I was entering the book. I'm like, oh shit, I'm here. Like, you know, they always say like it's kind of nice to read before bed because I've heard that you absorb some of the stuff, but I
Mm.
was like, I've heard that from somewhere, like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, when you're reading, you know, you get sleepy and you kind of dream and absorb the stuff. But yeah, I felt like I was reading some stuff, and I started to read a little bit of the archetype as well. So it's getting it's so many ways to go through, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We'll have to explore some of that next week. I'll see what Katie wants to do in terms of like the extra stuff.
I
Um,
know. Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, yeah. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna
Oh,
call it here. Thank you both for coming on again. I really appreciate you guys coming and
yeah.
chatting.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, man. This has been awesome for
Good for
sure.
this, which is cool.
Yeah. And next week I think we'll have more people, so it'll be even
Yeah.
more interesting to kind of reflect and share and see. We'll take a look at some other charts too. Um,
Yeah.
Katie and I have been actually pulling up charts of like celebrities
Oh
uh,
wow.
and like politicians or just like famous people in general. So it's kind of really cool to just like see like look at them from that perspective, see their life's work, and be like, oh
Oh,
well,
wow.
that freaking makes
Oh
sense.
really? Oh wow. Are you guys just go online and see where they're born, time and day, and then kind
Yeah,
of do the
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because I did,
it's kind of addicting, right? I was like, oh my God. I thought in the beginning, like, oh my God, I need to know about my mom, my dad, my whole family. And then it's funny because one of my clients that I mentioned last week, that I said, have you heard of the Gene Key? She's like, oh my God, I have the book. Anyways, she's going to course and seeing someone else and stuff. And then I text her about how you doing. She's like, oh my God, Michelle, I did the hologenetic profile for my ex-husband and the guy that I'm going out. You're gonna be shocked. I'm like, man, that's just a human thing, right? You're like, I just want to know, like, and it makes total sense. It's so on point. It's spot
Yeah.
on.
Yep.
How did
So,
you look? Which did you look at, Biden? Just
so
kidding.
I looked at RFK actually,
Okay.
and it's funny because his life's work is justice. It's the sixth.
Ooh.
So his life's work has been like battling, corporations and companies uh,
Let's go.
to be
Come on.
accountable for the amount of toxins that they're dumping into the water, into the air. And so it's like his life's work is to like create that and to be like kind of a justice warrior and to do the nitty gritty, all the details in order to like bring somebody to court and sue them and make an impact on the thing that he's
Wow.
focusing on. It's also really funny. He has in his vocation the six, which is peace. So he has like in his life's work, what he loves to do, what's part of his soul is to bring peace to the world. And that's
Amazing.
like through diplomacy. And that's like, I was like, that's really interesting. And what's actually even more interesting is I did Donald Trump's too. And he
Yeah.
has, it's
That's
funny.
so
It's funny because he has peace in his purpose, in his unconscious. So it's like, there's something at play here. And whether, like, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of all this stuff, we can look at these individuals through the shadows and through the gifts and through the city so we can see where their shadows coming out or where how they interact with people or how they attract people.
Uh-huh.
Like Donald Trump has the 59 in his attraction sphere. his transparency. So the way he attracts people is by being completely honest about what he thinks. And he did that. And so many people loved him for that. Like he would shit on other celebrities or like whatever he would do. And people were like, yeah, like say, like, be authentic, be yourself, be truthful. Whether it's truthful or not, like, that's for debate, but like, it's just fun to kind of like see those things, and to see people's culture and their evolution and yeah, all that stuff. I was looking up like a couple other, like just on the website, it was like all these other profiles of like actors and stuff. And I was like, oh, hey, there's Ryan Reynolds right there. And I was like, I bet he has the 8 in his profile somewhere. And the 8 is style, the gift of style, and the city of exquisiteness. So it's really about just like being yourself and being your unique self. And he has it in his pearl and his culture. So I was like, this is hilarious. Like I can just, you can look at somebody, you can start to kind of just like see how they embody certain things. He also has divine will in his vocation, the 40, which is cool.
And it's not everybody that have the same gene key repeated, right? Because I'm looking at my, okay.
A lot of people can have the same cross.
I better say goodbye now. Sorry, I'm at 1%. I'm at 1%. So I better say goodbye now because. But
that's good. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Soon anyway. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Thanks, Michelle.
Of course. Thank you.
So Michelle, they have like with the life's work and the evolution and the radiance and the purpose, those two are programming partners. You'll see a lot of the same crosses. So like it's gonna, like a lot of people who have, like if you have it's actually funny.
My pearl and my IQ are the same, 46.3.
Oh yeah. So I'm talking about just the activation sequence. So like the green, all like if you have the 62 as your life's work, you're gonna have the 61 as your evolution, and you're gonna have the 42 and the 32. So this is all. It's actually really funny because Peter and Brian have the same cross. So they both have 62 in the life's work, 61 in the evolution, 42 in the radiance, and 32 in the purpose. But they have different lines.
Mm-hmm.
So it applies differently. And then even within that, they have like completely different Venus and Pearl sequences. So it's just interesting. Like you can have the same, what's called a cross. I might be saying that actually wrong. I think I'm not exactly sure. That's like more of a human design term, and it may be referring to the lines themselves, but
I actually well, Katie will know how to say
it. Yeah. If you want to, you can throw questions in the chat always.
My pearl being 46.3 and my IQ being 46.3. So I was wondering, sometimes, I mean, and I looked at my girlfriend's one, and hers, none of the gene keys repeat, but I know sometimes Katie say, oh, if you have the same number, is something to look at a little bit more deep.
Yeah, also, so there's something in human design that Katie can share more about, and I'm like getting a better understanding because she was explaining it the other day to me. But basically, in the human design body graph, there's 9 centers, and those are the 9 different chakras. So you have your root chakra, you have your spleen, you have your solar plexus, you have all these centers. Within each one of those centers are numbers that are associated with each key. So also within those like sections, those chakras, those numbers, if we have them, the line can be activated. So when that happens, on the opposite side of the line, so like where the spleen can connect to the root chakra. So the root, like if you have if somebody has one of the lines in the root and somebody has one of the lines in the spleen and they connect, you form a channel. You come together with that person. So you both have access to both of those gene keys or both of those whatever spheres both of those keys when you two come together. And then they're called something. Each one has like a specific name or like a specific part of the body that they activate. So like certain things in the throat chakra could activate your voice to do things. Certain things can activate your intuition if you're coming together with somebody else. You can have open centers and you can have filled centers. Certain types of individuals have more or less than others, and they split up the different the different types through generator, manifesting generator, projector, reflector, and I think there's
Oh,
um,
yeah. I also went into the human design one year, and Katie did that live. I actually watched the whole live.
cool.
Man, I can never, that was funny. But I did the human design chart as well for myself, because when I'm on vacation, I'm like, let me see this. And I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of connections. And I was wondering, even when I first heard of a programming partner, in my head came in like maybe with my relationship partner, if there's a connection of the gene keys, how we can interact with your partner or other people. Is there a way to see if like our energy match or stuff? But I'm sure
Absolutely. So
go.
we can, I'll talk to Katie about it, and maybe we can, when we're done with the activation sequence, maybe we can start to go into human design and see how they correlate, or even just like add it on as something to talk about, because these calls
Yeah,
can, yeah, can get
you
fun.
mentioned like having my partner and maybe the human design, and together we can just have these spheres that could connect that we don't even know, and we can
Yeah.
create major like
So
good stuff.
when Katie and I come together, we activate, I think it's like the 59.6 channel.
Oh, very cool. There you go.
So,
Yep.
and then there's like another one that we activate. I can't remember I'm still learning all of them, but there's something about the throat chakra, and there's like the voice and the leader, and we each have access to that when we come together. So
No,
there's stuff that we can, yeah, you can
that's cool.
essentially work
I'm
with.
sure I have a bunch of stuff, but it'd be fun to know, like, oh, okay. So you can kind of contemplate and kind of send our
Yeah,
energy more, because that's how you unlock and
yeah,
activate the
exactly, exactly.
hidden potential.
It's so cool. It's so freaking cool.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. I'll have on the notes, things to, we talk about a lot of, a little bit more on the animals for sure. And some of that sounds
Yeah, yeah.
good.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Thank you again
All
for
right.
coming on.
I'll see
Appreciate
you.
it. Yeah, we'll
I'll see
talk soon.
Have a
Okay.
good one.
You too.
Thank you, Colin.
Bye.
Bye.